far fewer turns than he had been in the first part of this race. Spending a lot more time sitting on the back of this group. Now, I don't know whether he's a little bit fatigued, Richardson.
Yeah, he might be. As you say, he does seem to get gapped off a bit.
Whether he's being cagey.
I mean, he did do the lion's share of the work when they accelerated.
Yep.
Might be paying a price for that.
So Ineos Grenadiers now with 2 on the front. Hanschke just slotting in. Hollenstein and Dowsett still there with Holliman. You'd have thought the Great Britain team might want to ride as well. Jake Stewart, a very, very close second place in the sprint. This was always expected to be a bug sprint into Sunderland. That hasn't happened. We don't think, but it could still happen, and perhaps the GB team might want to invest a rider on the front.
Yeah, they have to, because I mean, to bring back this time gap, you're effectively having to do peel-offs.
There we go, they've had an effect. 4 minutes and 10 seconds. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not enough and it's not fast enough.
But maybe
the kilometres are running down.
That might encourage the
Yeah.
teams to say, well, you are making a difference now, let's go. But this is a classic situation. Everyone's waiting, whereas if they get on now, there's a legitimate chance it's possible. But every kilometre they hesitate, it becomes more unlikely.
Well, they've taken 45 seconds in around about 7 or 8 kilometres. Do the math yourself, it could still happen. Alex Richardson, they've got to carry on, keep the pressure on this group of 4. This is the first time since they built that massive advantage that they've sustained a few losses now with the addition of Kwiatkowski and Amador in particular, and Heinzke from DSM to the front.
Well, this is a section where the peloton's going to have to attack it so hard. These false flats, these heavy roads, this is where the breakaway will be paying a price. Even though they have been very economical through the stage on the strategy they chose, they're still going to be feeling it on these moments, and that's when the peloton needs to really attack it.
One more categorised climb still to come. It's the climb of High Moorsley. It's a very short climb. It's just 1 kilometre in length. The average gradient's 5.3%. They start to climb at 21.1k to go. So 13 kilometres from now. There's a Cat 3 climb to get over.
All right, Richardson isn't riding anymore.
Oops.
Yeah, it's either on purpose or because he can't. Maybe there's a bit of bluffing going on. We know tactically how smart he is, Richardson. We also know how strong he is. What's his game? Most of the work being done by the Belgian rider, Bonu. 1 victory to his name at the Saskatoon already this year.
Now the peloton is in full freight train mode, led by Kwiatkowski.
Former world champion on the front. Ineos Grenadiers trying to rescue this one now. 4:06, 33.4 kilometres to go. Still possible. Just possible. Haskins on the front. You're right, David, the succession of little climbs are going to hurt the breakaway, aren't they, more than the peloton. They're really going to have to rip up these little climbs. It's rolling terrain all the way into Sunderland. I mean, once they get over the top of the final climb of the day, High Moorsley, it does drop down pretty much all the way to sea level on the coast where Sunderland is. City centre finish.
Well, this would be the ultimate tactical play if Richardson has now encouraged them to do this and is now sitting on them and then wins the stage.
You do wonder, don't you?
Don't think I'd trust him.
Camille Bonu is a climber. Bear that in mind as well. And I wonder whether Bonu might be thinking about it. He's the purest climber, and his stage win at the Czech stage race, the Saskatoon, came at the top of a summit finish. And I wonder whether he might be thinking about the final climb to try and launch something long, because maybe he wouldn't necessarily back himself against the likes of Haskins and possibly Richardson at the finish line. 3:57, the time gap is coming down. Amador on the front. What about the Ineos Grenadiers at the moment? And Heinzke still there. Dowsett persisting.
Yeah, so this is the section where the peloton surely will bring back more.
Maybe the gamble has paid off for the Ineos Grenadiers and DSM after all. Time gap's coming down steadily now, but it's still got a long way to go. Still 4 minutes with 32, best part of 4 minutes with 32.4 kilometres to go. The maths theoretically is still in favour of the breakaway. But they are going to start being fatigued now, despite the fact that they've only been racing, per se, for the last hour or so.
Dowsett's done, it looks like. Yeah.
Alex Dowsett drops back. He has been on the front for a long time.
Yeah.
So they've lost one rider there, but Ineos Grenadiers are the two riders who are making the difference. And with respect to Alex Dowsett, on this day today, it wasn't he who was making the difference. In fact, quite the opposite. So that may not have too much of an effect. Losing Alex Dowsett. Bonu now on the front as the road tips up. Double flick of the elbow out the saddle. Paskins on his wheel. Richardson still on the back. Can't remember the last time I saw him do a turn on the front. This is feeling close to call again, David. It really is.
Yeah.
It is. Having given it to the breakaway, I'm less certain now.
Well, it depends on how long Amador, because there are huge turns they're doing. Let's not forget the intensity they're riding at is the top threshold. There's only 3 riders again riding. So Israel, Hermitek aren't even putting a rider in the rotation.
When they do start to burn through their numbers, that's when you really know that the breakaway is putting them under intense pressure.
But that's the thing, the speed they're going at, they need more riders so they get more rest. Those 3 riders aren't going to be able to maintain what they're doing at the moment.
Because at the moment they are taking back time quite fast. 3:39 now, 31.2 kilometres to go. They've taken about 20 seconds in the space of 3 or 4 kilometres on the breakaway.
Yeah, that's on that uphill drag, eating into the time gap there.
$10K to go until the High Moorsley climb.
I wonder if that's perhaps at the back of Alex Richardson's head, that if he's not feeling so good, he needs to just save as much as he can to make sure he can get over that climb.
Just those little gaps keep opening up for Richardson.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's not part of the plan, is it? Because that's not a
Makes it a lot
labour-saving
harder.
tactic.
No.
3:29 is the exact time gap. We've just had confirmation of that. And it's a marked difference from nearly 5 minutes when they turned within 40 kilometres to go. So they've taken that time fairly quickly. They've taken about a minute and a half or thereabouts in around about 12, 13 kilometres. So it's right in the balance. If they carry on taking time at that rate,
They'll catch him in the
they'll
final
catch him.
5Ks.
They'll catch him in the
Yeah.
final 5Ks. But it's all about resources now, both in the breakaway and in the peloton. Leon Heinzke, sole rider from DSM. Leon Kwiatkowski has previously suggested they send another rider forward, and maybe they're playing a very smart game here. We don't need to. 30 kilometres to go. Michał Kwiatkowski and Andre Amador have turned this around for the peloton. Those 2 riders in particular, moving to the front, sharing the work with DSM's Leon Heinzke, have brought this back to a much, much tighter affair than it looked when they turned with 40K to go and had almost 5 minutes in the bank. It's just about 3.5 minutes now as the breakaway come within 30 kilometres of what would be a stunning victory and an extraordinary tactical masterstroke orchestrated by this man. But it's in the balance again. Alex Richardson. It's hard to read his body language at the moment. It does look like he is perhaps tiring a little bit. He's sat on the back of that group of 4.
Yeah, he hasn't done a turn in about 10 kilometres, I think. So I generally think he's not feeling very good. And as we spotted, there's little gaps that keep opening up. That's going to be making his life difficult, and see there. I think he's struggling a bit in the wet as well.
Yeah, that is a real feature. Every time they go around a corner, Richardson just has to sprint to get back onto the wheels. And I don't think he's there for any other reason other than he can't be anywhere else. He's not sharing the work. There's certainly no remonstrating with Richardson from the other riders in the breakaway, asking him to work. Paskins, what an opportunity it is for the Dutchman. Ben Perry looks in firm control as well. He still looks very, very fresh. And Camille Bonu, perhaps the purest climber of these 4 riders, perhaps waiting, seeking out his opportunity as another 6-7 seconds comes back the way of the bunch. 3 minutes and 18 seconds. They're coming in hard now, aren't they? 28.9 kilometres to go. There is this climb still to come. They start to climb at 21.1 kilometres. So in just over 7.5 kilometres time. But once they get over the climb, David, they do benefit again from a fair amount of descending, where it'll be harder for the bunch to actually close the gap.
Yeah, so that's going to be a pivotal moment for the breakaway, and I think especially for Alex Richardson, if he's genuinely not feeling good, then he's going to be hanging on for dear life up that climb and on the descent.
So effectively, it's 3 riders in the breakaway against the peloton now, because Richardson is doing none of the pace setting. He's just holding the wheels, or trying to hold the wheels of the other 3 riders. So it's a 3-rider breakaway in terms of its power. Richardson unable or unwilling, or we think unable to contribute at the moment.
It's almost as if he's got his own personal team.
Yeah.
Right, guys, I'll sit on the
It's
back
true.
here. You guys rotate.
You guys get me to the finish line.
Yeah.
Camille Bonu pushing on. Paskins coming through. Ben Perry contributing. Richardson drifting around on the wheels, not looking so fresh now. Really, when they started to ride with about 60 kilometres to go, he was the one who injected the pace initially. He's invested a lot in those 20 kilometres or so before they switched direction.
Oh, Richardson.
Yeah, and again that gap opens. Richardson struggling just to hold the wheel of Bonu. After all that,
Yeah.
it does feel like he's going to be dropped potentially on that climb, doesn't it? He's
Yeah.
teetering on the